I'm going to drink a lot of Budweiser tonight, Tracy, and I promise you that.
The Spill Sports Show. Matt Reynoldson.
I've always been told I have the face for radio, and now I'm making it happen.
David Eickholt.
It's utter blasphemy. It blows my mind.
Scott Ayers.
The next time they make the playoffs, I'll be running for president.
Kick off your weekend with hard-hitting sports talk every Friday afternoon from 1 to 3 on KRNU2. You're kicking off the weekend with the Spill Sports Show. Listen every Friday on KRNU2 or 24/7 on thespillkrnu.wordpress.com.
We are talking about people that play games for money.
I love to bring a Jersey Shore type feel.
That makes me angry. That makes me sad. That gets me fired up.
Here's your hosts, Matt Reynoldson, David Eickholt, and Scott Ayers.
That put him in the aisle. Johnny the Jet Rogers just tore them loose from their shoes.
You believe in miracles? Yes! Comes to LeBron. He takes a fadeaway for the win. He knocked it down!
There goes Davis. Oh, my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
You can't believe what just happened. What a time to be alive!
Hit me with the horn, 20.
Welcome in. You're listening to the Spill Sports Show. We are live worldwide on KRNU2. From Studio A in Andersen Hall at the University of Nebraska campus, we're coming at you with live sports talk for the next 2 hours. We are the royalty of radio roundtables. Alongside David Eickholt and Scott Ayers, I'm Matt Reynoldson, and we're talking about people that play games for money. If you think we're getting hit by a post-Super Bowl lull, you just wait till you hear the show we have for you today. David, what's coming up in hour one?
Matt, we'll discuss your boiling hatred for people that play or cheer for Wisconsin and recap Nebraska-ball's loss in Madison Wednesday night. We'll also talk about what the team needs to do to get back on track, preview a packed NBA All-Star weekend, look ahead to next season in the NFL, and don't forget our feature segment, the Jordan Stevenson Tweet of the Week. Scotty, what's coming up for hour two?
We are icing down in the second hour to talk all things hockey in the thick of the NHL season. We'll also bring in college basketball writer Matt Hardesty to preview a huge weekend in college basketball, tell you why Valentine's Day is the worst holiday in the pop culture spill, and we'll close with the final rundown. But first, Matt, make like a Louisville girl and escort us into our first topic.
Wednesday, Nebraska was once again treated to the most classless fans in the country when they visited the Wisconsin Badgers in Madison. From chanting Kansas reject at Andrew White to yelling some words we can't really say on the radio to Michael Jacobson to probably spitting on puppies, Wisconsin fans are just the worst. These are fans that throw snowballs at their own cheerleaders and beer cans at opposing fans. Madison, after a football game, is a war zone, which means you got to get out and away from these lunatics as fast as you can. I can't stand Wisconsin fans, and I can't stand their smug-faced players. Every year they field a team full of Aaron Crafts and Christian Leitners. But as much as I want to take their cheese and shove it in their smirking faces, I can't deny that these guys can shoot the basketball. Badgers shot 61% from three. Guys, is this what sank Nebraska in this game?
Yeah, the shooting for Wisconsin just kind of killed the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And early on in the game, Wisconsin started off 1 of 6, 1 of 7 from the field. Did not start off shooting well, but later on in the game, Wisconsin just too talented for this Nebraska basketball team. And, Nebraska's starting, 5 true freshmen or 5 freshmen? Or 4 freshmen, I should say, with Andrew White III. But Nebraska just couldn't get anything going offensively once again. And now the Huskers are 13-12 and sitting pretty at 9th in the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah, I think that it really did bury us. I think the first 6 minutes of the second half is really what kind of killed us, and that was just the part where we just couldn't get back in the game. We were not playing any perimeter defense whatsoever, as, again, 61% shooting would show you. But I think it's hard to take away some positive things. If you want to take away anything positive, I liked, Glenn Watson shot the ball. He had 16 points. I like seeing that kind of production out of him. Andrew White's back in kind of this lull, 10 points, 3 fouls. Decent rebounding game, though. But Nebraska's just got a lot of work to do.
Vito Brown really hurt Nebraska in this game. Wisconsin has enough guys that can hurt you with guys like Bronson Koenig, Nigel Hayes, and now Vito Brown. It's tough when Nebraska doesn't scout a player very well, because when they don't, he tends to go off in the game. You look at games like Maryland. Yes, they scouted Melo Trimble well, but Melo's going to mellow. But games against teams like Iowa, where Woodbury hurt you, and they didn't scout him very well. In the Purdue game, they had a few guys hurt the team that they didn't scout very well. And that's tough for a young team when you don't scout a guy well and then he ends up hurting you. I think the real thing that killed Nebraska in this game was the scoring droughts. And there's one key question that comes along with these scoring droughts. Are they losing their points by not getting out in transition? Or do they just have an inefficient half-court offense?
We just have an inefficient half-court offense, because I think teams are starting to figure out how to really slow down Andrew White III. He's just been in a lull since about the halfway point in the Big Ten season. But the one thing I do want to give Nebraska credit for is they did really slow down Ethan Happ, who's been kind of a breakout freshman for Wisconsin. But Vito Brown just, these came up big. We focused too much energy on shutting down Ethan Happ. Nigel Hayes got his own. But we just need to revamp this offense, especially now with Siobhan Shields. I don't know how long he's out for, but we just need to figure out our identity. And it's really sad to say that, when we're 25 games in this season, we still don't have our offense. We still don't have the identity, that go-to guy, because I'm starting to lose faith in Andrew White as being our go-to guy. I don't know if we have one anymore.
Yeah, this is a Nebraska basketball team who people coming into the season did not have high expectations. Then they started to win a few games, beat Michigan State, and all of a sudden people were saying, oh, this could be a tournament team. But at the end of the day, this roster is just not nearly as talented as other teams in the Big Ten. You do have guys like Ed Morrow who just really haven't developed extremely well in their first season. Glenn Watson Jr., he had 16 points, but throughout the season, he's been averaging about 8 to 10 points a game. And so Andrew White III and Siobhan Shields are good players, but on other teams, they're the third or fourth scoring options. They are not number one guys. So I just don't think this Nebraska basketball team has the same kind of talent that the Wisconsins or the Indianas or the Purdues all have.
You touched on this a minute ago. Ed Morrow not having the development that you expected out of him. He's the highest recruit Nebraska's ever had. He was 51 in ESPN's 100 recruiting rankings, but Miles won't play him. I understand he's been dealing with a little bit of plantar fasciitis, which caused him to sit out a lot of the Maryland game. But the practice report said he was over it. The practice report said he was okay. It bothers me that Miles refuses to play Ed Morrow, because this season's, as far as the NCAA tournament expectations, this season is over.
Yeah.
You don't have anything left to gain from this season except to bring your young players up. I understand you let Siobhan Shields and Benny Parker play all the minutes they want to finish out their senior seasons. That's great. They're the best players. They've earned those minutes. Got it. But why? Why are you playing Jake Hammond over Ed Morrow? You have so much more to develop with Ed Morrow. You have so much more potential with Ed Morrow. The reason his development has been slowed is because he's not getting in the game, and that's infuriating. Why won't Miles play him? Guys, you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think he's a little bit stubborn on it. And honestly, you need to play Ed Morrow. That is how these guys get better. You can practice all you want, but nothing will translate over to the game if you don't have game experience. And that's what Miles just needs to learn and accept. Glenn Watson's developing, I think, very nicely, but you know why? It's because he's getting playtime. Ed Morrow still can develop into a really good player, but Miles is hurting Ed Morrow, and he's hurting the team, quite frankly. It's his decision not to play him.
Yeah, this is an Ed Morrow who's playing about 14 minutes a game at the max, and he just really is not getting the experience a lot of fans would like to see him have. So, Shane's kind of going off what you said. He just really isn't getting the experience that Glenn Watson's getting, because Watson's actually going into the game and getting this real-time experience. Meanwhile, when Ed Morrow goes into the game, he's playing not as tough or as tight of defense as you'd like to see. He gets in foul trouble easily, and that's just because he's trying to make a big play, trying to make a statement that he deserves more minutes, and in the end, that's kind of hurting him. So it's just kind of this balance between him and Miles, trying to figure out how they can develop him, because not playing him clearly hasn't worked for the big man, because he just has not become what the Husker fans want him to be.
And the struggle goes often with players that are sometimes out of position in Miles' defense. Miles has a very short leash for players that don't play every possession on defense, or that are in the wrong position on defense, which is why he often pulls Glenn Watson out of the games in favor of Benny Parker, who's much less offensively efficient. But Nebraska's defense, yes, Miles wants to focus on defense, but they're scrambling a lot of the time. When other teams make shots, notably in the Michigan game, which I saw firsthand, when other teams make shots, especially early in the game, the defense starts to rotate and scramble. They end up rotating well because they're a well-coached defensive team, but they're young, and so they get their minds focused on rotating instead of staying home, which opens up the floor for bigs like Mark Dono for Michigan State, or for Michigan. He's not a great big. He hasn't put up big numbers all season. That opens the floor up for him to get some big numbers against Nebraska, and some less talented bigs to do their thing, because Nebraska's scrambling on the outside on defense, and they won't have a guy stay home in that situation. Jack McVay suffers from this when he misses a help side defense. It's tough. It's tough to look at that and want to rotate and want to scramble when you're a defensive player. You want to scramble on the outside, yet you still have to come back and play help side. That's tough to keep two things in your mind at the same time. But have you noticed a tendency for them to scramble on defense? Is this becoming a big problem?
Yeah, it has become a problem, and I'm guessing Tim Miles has gone over this time and time again. And these guys are young. That's what I think a lot of people forget. These are college kids who are basically the same age as us on the show, ages spanning from 19 to 21 years old. And yeah, there's two seniors on this team, but besides that, Andrew White III is a junior, and then the rest of the key players are freshmen. And that's really going to actually benefit the Nebraska Huskers later on in a couple years from now, because these guys are going to learn, should we play help side or should we scramble? Right now, they're just kind of a mess. This season, obviously 13-12 for the Huskers, not exactly what they wanted, but a lot of people figured this would be a rebuilding season, and that's what it has become. These freshmen just need to learn how to play the correct defense in correct situations.
I also think they just need to learn the speed of college basketball, and I know that. It's 25 games in, but remember, these are freshmen, and when they try to keep up with what they think is the speed of the game, they get out of control because they don't know how to do it. But let's think about, I want to go back to Ed Morrow really quick. Ed Morrow, when he played against Rutgers, he had 17 minutes. He shot 5 of 6, 10 points, 7 rebounds. And I thought that was my best game I think I've seen from him. I was very happy with how he played. He had 2 turnovers, but freshman, it's going to happen. And then you go, I know you said he had a plantar fasciitis, but why would you not play him coming off that game to keep his confidence high so he keeps being aggressive, keeps attacking, plays good hard-nosed defense, rebounds with aggression? I don't understand the logic of playing a guy like Jake Hammond who can go in there and give you 4 fouls. I don't understand it. We need to figure this out. It's a growing process, but it has to start with Coach Miles. Coach Miles has to play the players that are going to be the future. Jake Hammond's not the future. Ed Morrow is absolutely the future of this team.
I compare Jake Hammond to Gumby. He's in there just flailing around. he's a little green guy. He's just in there flailing around, just not really doing much, just picking up stupid fouls. He needs to get better. No, he's not the player that we need to invest our future of the big man with. I'd like to see some time with Ed Morrow at the 4. I think that's what he was brought into play. He was recruited as a power forward, but that's not the system we run this year. So we'll see how that progresses down the road. Let's look in the near future. How about this matchup against Penn State tomorrow? The Nittany Lions are coming off a big win over Indiana. What does Nebraska have to do to win this game?
This is a Nebraska basketball team who just needs to get in a consistent scoring or score consistently early and often against Penn State. This is a Nittany Lion team who's 3-8 in the Big Ten. They have that huge win against Indiana, but they're 12-12 overall. This is not a great Penn State team by any means. They caught Indiana at the right time and had a great upset. Nebraska just needs to play their game with or without Siobhan Shields. Freshmen have to step up, and hopefully Ed Morrow will be able to play in the game and get some quality playing time against a weaker Big Ten opponent.
And they are weaker, but I'm interested to see how much momentum does carry over for Penn State coming off that huge win versus Indiana. But if you look at Penn State, they're not a great scoring team. They're 321st in the country. They're not a great passing team, 346th. Keep in mind, this is off 362 qualifying teams. But Brandon Taylor is a really, really good, undersized forward for Penn State, and he could cause some problems, especially if our bigs get in foul trouble. He's very aggressive. He's a very good, very big offensive rebounder and second chance player. I think I'm interested to see how Penn State shoots the ball. They're not a great shooting team, like I said, but I think we need the confidence built in Nebraska that they can stop a team at all right now from the perimeter, because it sucks when you're coming off a game giving up 11 threes when the other team's shooting 61% from there. I think if we limit them to under 7 threes, I really like our chances in this game.
You know, it'll be a really interesting matchup to see Andrew White versus Brandon Taylor in this game. We'll see if Andrew White can avoid picking up some early fouls like he did against Michigan State. He had to guard Denzel Valentine in that game, and that's a very tough matchup for Andrew White. And we'll see if he can really be able to stay in the game, play better defense than he has lately, and still carry the team in scoring, whether Siobhan Shields plays or not.
He needs a big game for sure. I think he just needs to bounce back to get his confidence back up, because he's just been in that lull.
Well, Nebraska ball tips off against Penn State in primetime tomorrow, 5 o'clock at Pinnacle Bank Arena. From college ball to the pros, we'll talk NBA storylines and the All-Star Weekend coming up. Stay with us. This is the Spill Sports Show.
Bring 'em out, bring 'em out, bring 'em out, bring 'em out. It's hard to yell when the barrel's in your mouth. Come on.
You're listening to the Spill Sports Show on KRNU2.
Just gotta do what I gotta do, and when I gotta do it, you know. So basically, just doing what I gotta do every time I step on the court and do what I gotta do.
Now, live from Andersen Hall on the UNL campus, here's Matt Reynoldson, David Eickholt, and Scott Ayers.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Spill Sports Show live and worldwide on KRNU2. We've reached the midway point of the season in the NBA, and we'll have our second half preview next week. But this week, we're talking about the best players in the game, the All-Stars. Guys, what are you most looking forward to this weekend in Toronto?
Well, boys, my favorite time of the year is the dunk contest. And you know what? There's some great names, young guys in this dunk contest, and that's what it's really all about. That's what it's come down to. It's the young, up-and-coming players who really can throw down. And Will the Thrill Barton from your Denver Nuggets is going to be competing in the dunk contest this year. Just so excited to see a Denver Nugget back in the All-Star game type festivities, even though it's not the actual game. I'm not even mad. Go Will the Thrill Barton.
You know, I'm really looking forward to is I'm looking forward to Kobe Bryant's last All-Star appearance, and I'm expecting vintage Kobe Bryant for 1 or 2 plays. I'm expecting him to do something just to kind of give us a nice throwback. I hope he does. I think Kobe Bryant deserves it. So I'm really excited to see what Kobe Bryant can do this weekend.
You know, I think there's going to be a lot of nice tributes to Kobe, and I think that'll be really fun to see. I'm looking forward to just another 160 to 150 game. I'm sick of all this great defense in the NBA. I like seeing the absurd lack of defense in the All-Star game. That was facetious, by the way. I'm a big defensive guy, but you know, it's always kind of fun to see the stars ball out and just hit a bunch of crazy shots and people just stand around on defense. That's just kind of fun. So I'll definitely be watching the All-Star game. But before we get into the rest of the All-Star festivities, Dwight Howard just wants you to be positive. You know, his Houston Rockets have been struggling, but you know what? He says that's okay.
It's all we do is talk about the issues that we have. Nobody's being positive. We got to say positive stuff. We got to speak positive life into ourselves. We can't sit up here and speak negativity every single day, because then all you're doing is put negative thoughts in your head. So when you get out of the game, that's when it shows up.
Multiple media reports have now confirmed that he is on the trading block for the Houston Rockets. But would trading him solve the Rockets' problems?
I'll first start off by saying I thought that was a Jordan Stevenson quote that was so inspiring. But no, you know what? You know what's bad when J.B. Bickerstaff, the Rockets interim head coach, is basically saying, yeah, we have issues. We're all playing. We're not even a team at this point. I think the Rockets, this is a really long shot, and it's not going to happen. I think they got to get rid of James Harden. I think they need to get rid of Dwight Howard. I think they got to start fresh and get salary caps and just restart, because this is not working out. This has just been a poison. I think even though they had a decent showing last year in the playoffs, this team is not as good as it's advertised to be anymore. James Harden's not playing at the same level. I think if they'd have a good start, if they trade Dwight Howard, actually, I think to the Oklahoma City Thunder and trade Serge Ibaka. I think Ibaka for Howard would be a great trade for the Rockets to get him back started. Because otherwise, Howard's going to be hurt half the time. And the Thunder need a post presence whatsoever. Because Cantor doesn't play any defense. He can't guard a brick wall. But I think that's just a good start. But Howard, he'll probably end up being traded.
You know what? Enes Kanter is the building block of any great team. But I don't know. I don't think it would solve. I don't think it would solve their problems, and I don't think trading Harden would solve their problems at all.
No.
He does lead the NBA in ISO plays, but he still is one of the best players in the NBA. You can build around him. It just needs to be. It's coaching. You need to have better coaching. They shouldn't have fired McHale.
No, they shouldn't have.
Bickerstaff isn't doing anything for this franchise, and I don't know. It's really rough to see this team with this much talent fall apart like this. And I don't think trading Dwight Howard's the option, and I definitely don't think getting rid of James Harden is what you do. Because if you have a superstar, you keep a superstar.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head with Kevin McHale. They fired him when the Rockets started off like 4-6. They were like maybe 10 games into the season.
And they signed him to a 3-year extension like 11 months before.
Yeah, and it's one of those firings that, it was panic in the front office. Maybe McHale wanted something that the owner or GM didn't agree with. Regardless, it's a stupid firing by the Houston Rockets. Just idiotic. There's a reason why they're not in the playoff picture right now. The Utah Jazz are ahead of them, led by Gordon Hayward. It was dumb. Even if Dwight Howard gets traded, unless they get great return, this is a Houston Rockets team that's really going to need to rebuild in the offseason. And yeah, they definitely still have a chance to make the playoffs, but this is not a Houston Rockets team that will be competing for an NBA Finals this year.
No, they absolutely won't be competing for an NBA Finals. But let me ask you guys this. Is it fair? Do you think Dwight Howard's a coach killer?
I don't. And, I think, first of all, I understand why he wanted to leave Orlando. He wanted to win a championship because that's the standard now for great NBA players. Yeah. He's still a good NBA player. It's just, it's the lack of, I guess, willing to form chemistry with other players. Dwight Howard wants to be the star. It's very clear that Dwight Howard wants the team to revolve around him. He's not necessarily comfortable with James Harden having the spotlight, but I think James Harden is the key piece to this team. I think Dwight Howard can be a key piece to this team, and I think guys like Corey Brewer can really help the chemistry of this team altogether, and they're a talented team. They can win games. It's clear. They did that. They made this team made the conference finals last year. Mm-hmm. This is not a different team than that. It's just the dynamic, the chemistry of this team, believing in themselves, and being able to deal with James Harden wanting the ISO plays, Dwight Howard wanting to be the star. Dwight Howard is still an elite rim protector. If you keep him in Houston, it keeps your chances for. I mean, right now they're looking at a possible 8 seed. It increases your chances if you have Dwight Howard. It increases your chances of being able to knock off Golden State, an Oklahoma City, a San Antonio in the playoffs. Because if you have talent in the NBA, you have a chance. That's the whole thing. They just need to learn to play together. And I think you need to give this team a little more time. Maybe hire another assistant that's good at developing team chemistry, that's good at developing players on their own, and we'll see where they go from there.
I think there's 2 key pieces that we're missing here. One, I don't think Houston should be talking about being anyone, because if you look at their stats, they're giving up 107 points a game. That's second worst in the NBA, even with the elite rim protector that is Dwight Howard. I think there's two things they need to do. If assuming they keep all the pieces, they don't trade away Howard. I agree. I don't think they'll trade Harden. I think they should, but Dwight Howard needs to have some discipline. Number one, I think that's what he's been lacking his whole career is discipline and a humbling experience. And two, James Harden has to play a lick of defense if this team wants to do anything, because Klay Thompson could get 50 on him, and Klay Thompson can't ISO to save his life. He's either a transition, stop, pop in three, or he gets the hoop, or he has a play run for him. He's not an ISO player, but he'd still give up 50. Harden takes quarters off defensively, and you can never even get in the NBA Finals if you have that type mentality. And honestly, he's not even a superstar in my book because he hasn't played any defense.
And, the thing with Dwight Howard, the reason why he wants to be the center of attention is because he started off his career as the center of attention in Orlando. I mean, the whole offense, the whole city was around him. They all believed in Dwight. When they went to the finals, it wasn't because Jameer Nelson was playing point guard. No. It was because Dwight Howard was carrying the basketball team. So he expects that, and I don't blame him. You want to be the star on your team. When I play NBA 2K16, I want to be the star, even with being on the New York Knicks. But that's not important. What is important is he just needs to gain some chemistry with James Harden and Patrick Beverley. But unfortunately, that just hasn't been the case. I thought last year, Josh Smith was on the team. This is a team that actually looked very impressive before losing to Golden State in the Western Conference Finals. Yeah. And they have just fallen apart with firing their head coach. Obviously, Josh Smith, they lost him to free agency. This Houston team just is not the same team we saw last year.
And you make a very good point. I know it was a joke, but you make a very good point about the NBA 2K16 thing. Everybody wants to be the star. That's the part of the culture we live in because you're known if you're the star, and you're known as the guy. And I think that's an appeal to a lot of players. But switching gears a little bit, one guy it doesn't really appeal to, but he's the star anyway, is Jimmy Butler of the Chicago Bulls. And the Bulls will have to do without him for the next 3 to 4 weeks because of a strained knee. Guys, will they survive this time, or will they struggle throughout?
I think they'll survive. I mean, I've been very impressed with, Pau Gasol's play so far this season. And I think this is the time where, because the Bulls can afford to lose a few more games, even over the course of the next couple weeks. But this is the time where you develop the other players, make them stronger, and when Jimmy Butler comes back, and hopefully Jimmy Butler can actually score consistently instead of going off for 40-point halves, then having 2 points in the other half. But let alone, he is slowly becoming a superstar, and I think the team just needs to get more chemistry. And I think this, for the long run, this will be better for the Bulls. But for the short run, I'm not liking the chances right now of, surviving.
Yeah, D Rose and Pau Gasol are really going to have to step up for this Chicago Bulls team. Right now, they're 7th in the Eastern Conference, and the Detroit Pistons are 1 game back, and Detroit Pistons are out of the playoff run right now. They're currently sitting at 9th. So Chicago doesn't have a whole lot of breathing room. Do I think they can survive? Sure. I think maybe they'll win some games without Jimmy Butler, but they won't move up in the Eastern Conference standings by any means. I think they're going to stay at that 7th, 8th spot, but they have to be careful with Charlotte, Detroit, and the Wizards all kind of breathing down their neck. Obviously, Washington a few games back. But when you're missing out your star player, it can really take a toll on a team.
Yeah, Derrick Rose has to become vintage Derrick Rose again and actually just do the things that he was I don't know if he's capable of doing them anymore just because of his health, but he has to be able to push himself and play through all the games, even if he's a little bit sore, because at this point, the Bulls do need W's. They want to gain a little bit of breathing room, but I don't see it over the course of the next 3 weeks how much breathing room and traction they're actually going to gain.
The mayor, Fred Hoiberg, came into a much more difficult Eastern Conference this year, so the Bulls will have to hold off a lot of teams, have to win a lot of tough games to get back in the playoff picture and get to the point they want to be in competing with Cleveland and the other top teams in the East. Well, Kobe received a warm reception in Cleveland when he faced off against a fellow legend for one of the last times. What were your thoughts on his reception there, and will he receive a similar royal treatment in Toronto this weekend?
It was kind of a special moment to see two of the greats going up against each other of different generations or eras, however you want to say it. Kobe Bryant obviously starting his career in the late 90s and LeBron starting in the 2000s. these two guys are going to leave impacts and marks in the NBA. So, yeah, it was incredible to see the standing ovations Kobe Bryant has got, not only in Cleveland, but he has gotten all season long. Every single fan base has just shown him respect and love. And it's awesome to see. I'm guessing at the All-Star game, there's going to be plenty of pictures, plenty of ovations for the late, great Kobe Bryant. But yeah, everyone is understanding this is his final run. This is his final season. So it's all well-deserved for Kobe Bryant.
Absolutely. And if you take a look at the other side of things, I love how Kobe Bryant's really humbled himself, I feel like, this year. Over the last couple of years, I know he's been hurt, but I feel like he's really started to humble himself. It was really cool after the game. He went to the Cleveland locker room and signed a pair of his shoes and gave to LeBron, and they shared just a genuine moment of Kobe appreciating the greatness that LeBron brings to the table and just thanked him for all the tough competition. And LeBron said, thanks for inspiring me to be the basketball player I am today, because he said he wanted to be like Michael Jordan. He wanted to be like Kobe Bryant. And it was really cool to see just them. It's just, I love seeing moments between legends like that. They can beef it out on the court or whatever, but they do respect each other's game and what they've brought to the NBA in terms of publicity, entertainment, and everything.
You know, it's really fun to see two legends like that come together because, you know, it shows the bigger perspective of the game. When there's respect like that between two great players, when people really see the greatness in another player, it really kind of it brings the game to a different level than it is before two players like this. And, you know, LeBron's friends with a lot of other great players like Kevin Durant, Dwayne Wade, who he played with in Miami. It's just fun to see. It's just fun to see greats go at it. And Wednesday night was the last time we'll ever see Kobe play in Cleveland. And Sunday night in the All-Star game is going to be the second to last time Kobe and LeBron ever face off against each other. But it was a great ride while it lasted. It went Michael, whose career intersected a little bit with Kobe's, whose career intersected a lot with LeBron's, and they have really just held the pedestal for one another going through. These are three of the Michael, Kobe, and LeBron are easily three of the top 5 best players of all time, and it's just so fun to see that happening.
Yeah.
Well, a bunch more greats are playing this weekend in the All-Star game up in Toronto. Russell Westbrook came off the bench last year and went off in that game. Who steps up and wins the MVP of this year's All-Star game?
I hate to be that guy, guys, but Russell Westbrook starting after the performance he had last year, I expect Russell Westbrook to come out and get in here triple-double. I'll be shocked, though, if he wins MVP. I think it's either going to go to Steph Curry, because I expect Steph Curry to pull up some half-court shot just out of nowhere. Just drain it.
Do too.
He'll just do something ridiculous. I really want Kobe Bryant to go off, because I'd love to see Kobe Bryant go off and just win the MVP in his last All-Star game. But if I had to go on a limb, I'm going to say Steph Curry, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if Russell Westbrook repeated.
Yeah, you know what? I'll go with the Eastern Conference just because you went West. I'll go East, and I'm going to say a man, the myth, the legend, John Wall. I love that man. I love his music. I love the dances he has.
Do the John Wall.
John Wall is going to have 40 points, 18 assists, and 35 rebounds. He's just going to have a spectacular performance.
So basically what he did against Steph Curry?
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be the best All-Star game of all time.
Yeah. Oh, and that's what he's going to have. He's so frustrated with how bad the Wizards have been this season.
Yeah.
He's just going to be like, finally, I'm playing with decent athletes, and he's going to win an All-Star game MVP.
Oh, by the way, Matt, you forgot about you realized LeBron's holding the pedestal for Marvin Bagley III.
Okay, all right. You and your watching kids, David. Always watching those little high school kids in Mrs. Johnson's middle school class. Back to the All-Star game. You mentioned Steph Curry. This might be a less talented roster. The guys he's playing with in the All-Star game. This might be a less talented roster than the Warriors have.
Shut up. Shut up.
Honestly, though, it's not that much different because the Warriors are so stacked. I can't see Steph doing anything that he doesn't do in a regular game, and I don't think. I can't see him ever really winning an All-Star game MVP. I don't think he cares enough to do that, and I don't think he just comes out guns a blazing like he always does and is regular season games.
Do you expect him to make a couple half-court shots just out of nowhere, just pull up?
Probably not. Maybe like 1 3/4 court shot that everybody will tweet about for 2 hours and then forget about it. I don't know. I'm looking at a guy like D Wade. I'm really hoping D Wade goes off for the vintage factor. I'm hoping both D Wade and Kobe go off for 30, and we just see this classic mid 2000s glory days matchup between Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant.
But ESPN says that Steph Curry is better than Dwayne Wade in the overall players.
Well, I mean, he probably will be, and that's not going to be debatable in a few years. I don't know how the trajectory of the rest of Steph Curry's career is going to go.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to see what should be a pretty vintage All-Star weekend. The dunk contest, Zach LaVine, last year's champion, is back in it. Steph Curry versus his teammate Klay Thompson in the three-point contest, and a bunch of great guys in the skills challenge. Anthony Davis, Andre Drummond,
Emmanuel
Mudiay. You know what? I'm thinking Isaiah Thomas wins that, but it's just gonna be a great weekend, and we all wish we were there. I would probably be able to guard LeBron pretty well 1-on-1, so that'd be an interesting matchup. Well, this professional sport just reached its midseason. Another just ended with a little event called the Super Bowl. We thought we could go a full week without talking football. We're already talking about next season. All that and the Jordan Stevenson Tweet of the Week coming up next. Stay with us. This is the Spill Sports Show.
Back to hard-hitting sports talk with the Spill Sports Show on KRNU2. Don't forget to check out our podcast at thespillkrnu.wordpress.com in the hours following the show.
That's like re-releasing a Tupac album and giving him a Grammy.
Now, live from Andersen Hall at the University of Nebraska, here's Matt Reynoldson, David Eickholt, and Scott Ayers.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Spill Sports Show. We are live and worldwide on KRNU2. Matt Reynoldson, David Eickholt, Scott Ayers, the royalty of radio roundtables, kicking off your weekend with sports talk. Guys, the NFL season ended with the Super Bowl on Sunday. Now it's the perfect time to start talking about next season, right? Who do you got? Who's your favorite to win the Super Bowl next year?
Well, boys, in 1998 and 1999, there was a little back-to-back titles by your truly Denver Broncos.
Wasn't it 97 and 98?
98, 99. Well, it was like the 97, 98 season, the 98, 99, or something like that. That's what I read on ESPN.
I was trying to throw you off of your Broncos knowledge, Mr.
Okay,
Mr. Broncos superfan.
Anyways, Denver Broncos, they won in 2016, as you all know, the 15-16 season. And look, they're going to win in 2016-2017 with Brock Osweiler at the helm. This Denver defense, they proved critics wrong all season, so why can't they prove them wrong again next season? Let me tell you this right now, David Eickholt, he's moaning, he's angry. He picked the Carolina Panthers to beat the Denver Broncos. Oh, what just happened this past Sunday? The Denver Broncos, they shocked David Eickholt, but not only did they shock you,
They didn't
David,
really shock me, but
they stunned all of ESPN analysts. No one believed in them. Everyone talked about how Carolina's defense was so great. How Denver's defense had never seen a quarterback like Cam Newton. Well, no one really talked about how Cam Newton had never seen a defense like the Denver Broncos. They were angry. They're fired up. They're going to be fired up going into next season. Only predicted to be 5th in the preseason projections already. They're 5th, even though they just won the Super Bowl. Denver Broncos, Super Bowl champs. They're going to win by 40 points.
Super Bowl champs, 40 points.
Oh, my goodness.
Brock and roll, I guess.
Boo. No, I mean, here's the thing. You're right. The Denver Broncos were disrespected going into the game. The defense was not talked about well enough. I think they're a top 5, if not top 3 all-time defense. DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller, just phenomenal game. I hate to be that guy already. I got to go Carolina Panthers favorite for next year. They're returning all the key pieces. I expect Cam Newton to play at another MVP-type level of season. I expect him to take this as a learning experience, and he knows what it takes to not only get there. I think this taught him that he needs to do more in terms of preparation, get the team riled up, and I think they need to take a more business-like approach to the Super Bowl.
I agree.
Because I agree.
I
I said this a couple weeks ago, and I've said this time and time again. I love how much fun they have playing the game, but it comes to the point when you're in the Super Bowl, you need to be all straight business. You need to be like the sheriff. You just got to get ready to go in there and take them down. Nice. But I think I gotta go with Carolina. I don't see how the Seahawks would get back there. I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be Patriots Carolina next year.
I like a surprise team, not necessarily a surprise team, but a team that was just riddled with injuries this year in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yep. Ben Roethlisberger missed a lot of time. He was injured going into Denver for that second game of the playoffs, and should be interesting to see if the Steelers stay healthy, which is just it's a big if, because if any NFL team stays healthy, you can just slot them into if a team is fully healthy, no matter which team it is, maybe except the Browns, you can probably slot them into the Super Bowl. But if the Steelers are able to stay healthy, especially at the key positions, they get Antonio Brown back, they get Ben Roethlisberger back, they get Le'Veon Bell back, who was out earlier in the season, and coming out of Michigan State, next year will be his third or fourth year, I believe, in the NFL, and he is just a bruiser in there. And he's a great player. Can really carry this team. Can really carry this offense. Takes a lot of the pressure off of Big Ben. I think the Steelers could surprise a lot of people. They are tied with the Seahawks for leading the Vegas odds to win the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah.
So that should be pretty
I am shocked that the Seahawks are that high up, especially after the season they had. I mean, I don't think they should be higher than the Carolina Panthers, the team that's going to be mostly returning and already made it the Super Bowl.
Well, meanwhile, at the Legion of Boom, they're coming back. This defense is still this defense, and I'm excited to see if they can return to form, even without beast mode Marshawn Lynch. Do you think they'll return to form next year, or do you think they'll have another struggling season like this year?
Honestly, Thomas Rawls is the future for the running back position for the Seattle Seahawks. I think he did a great job stepping up for the Seattle Seahawks when Marshawn Lynch was injured, and now he's going to get those starts. But this Legion of Boom, they got beat twice by the Carolina Panthers. They're going to make some fixes, some changes in the offseason. They're probably going to add to their arsenal in the draft. So I'm excited to see what happens. Personally, I don't care to see Seattle in the Super Bowl. They've had their time to shine and all that. But this Seattle team, they lose their division to Arizona, but that division race is going to be fun next year when it's Arizona against Seattle.
Yeah, I feel like they were already without beast mode this season. I think Thomas Rawls was a lot better off at the running back for this style of team. I'm interested to see if Russell Wilson can keep up what he had going on during the last, 8 weeks this season. Just a ridiculous stat line that he put up. I don't know if he can, and I'm expecting a big season next year from Richard Sherman, because Richard Sherman, I feel like he was invisible. I'd never heard from him this season. I don't know what he did, and I don't know. I'm just interested to see if is LOB even a thing anymore, because after this season, I'm not so convinced.
I'm convinced that Seahawks can really return to form. I think Russell Wilson is definitely the player that you want him to be. But let's talk a little bit about free agency, switching gears a little bit. Where do guys like Eric Berry, Kirk Cousins, and Sam Bradford end up?
I think that Eric Berry's going to get a big contract boost. I think he's going to stay around. I think Kirk Cousins is going to stay around. I think the Redskins have made it fairly obvious that that's what they want at the quarterback position. And Kirk Cousins had a great season. Once they made the decision to finally go with him, I was very...
You like that?
No, I don't. But I think, I think he surprised a lot of people, because Kirk Cousins, let's keep this in mind, before the last, I think it was 7 games or so, he was averaging a pick every 16 throws. Like, he was a turnover-prone machine. But he turned it on and had a great end of the season. I think Sam Bradford shouldn't sign anywhere. I think he should retire because he's a bum and should not be playing in the National Football League. But I think most of them stick around. I don't know where Sam Bradford's going to go, but I wouldn't be surprised if he stuck around too. I can't see Eric Berry moving out, especially after all the support with what happened to him with the whole cancer treatment and I see Kirk Cousins getting a big contract boost.
Yeah, I'm going to drink a lot of Budweiser tonight, Tracy, and I promise you that.
What happens to Peyton Manning from here?
Oh, man, the Sheriff PFM. I love Peyton Manning. I love the Budweiser. They didn't even pay him to say that. He just loves his Budweiser. But, he's not going to be in Denver. That's a well-known fact. The Broncos want to move forward. They want Brock Osweiler to be the guy of the future. And so Peyton Manning, he's either going to retire, which a lot of people want him to. They want him to ride off into the distance. Yeah. But others are saying either the Los Angeles Rams could be interested, Houston Texans, and some speculate he could sign that one-day contract with the Indianapolis Colts, which I don't know if he wants to do that. Irsay kind of kicked him out the door and said, hey, good luck, but you're not coming back. So we'll see what happens.
I don't know what Jim Irsay is more famous for, kicking Peyton Manning out or just the whole drunk driving incident. I mean, he's a garbage owner.
He is not
He's
a good
garbage.
owner, yeah.
I mean, I think it's easy to say. I think Peyton Manning should leave because my worst fear for Peyton is he has the Brett Favre syndrome. He doesn't know when he doesn't know when to retire, and he keeps making a whole big debate out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope Peyton just goes.
Bold prediction. Peyton Manning goes to Toronto, wins a Grey Cup, and for the Canadian Football League, and then rides off into the sunset.
Yeah, I'm going to drink a lot of Budweiser tonight, Tracy, and I promise you that.
Well, from a seasoned pros to a future pro, our favorite ex-Nebraska running back had a much better week, according to his Twitter. This means big news for the personal life of superstar athlete and the inspiration to our youth, Jordan Stevenson.
Hello, Twitter bird.
Former Nebraska running back Jordan Stevenson tends to say some interesting, inspirational things.
It's just all about it, going in there with a great mindset and just knowing the plan, sticking to the plan. That's my favorite motto, sticking to the plan. Man, the sky's the limit. Anything's possible.
His quotes are words to live by, and his Twitter game is just as strong. Without further ado, here's the Jordan Stevenson Tweet of the Week.
In the midst of an excessive but playful back and forth, Jordan Stevenson tweeted this out-of-context quote at his new bay. I said, JK, stupid, palm emoji. I thought you was pulling up on me soon, SMH, liar, spelled wrong. Sideways frowning cat emoji, sideways pointed finger emoji. Now, our Twitter philosophy experts here have no idea of the context of this tweet. The only thing I'm telling them is that it was part of a positive and playful back and forth. We'll start with the blind analysis of David 2 Chainz Eickholt.
Boys, first of all, there's a big announcement you missed. Jordan Stevenson's Twitter account is no longer on private. So now we can retweet all of his greatness. You can follow me at David Eickholt if you want to see the retweets of Jordan Stevenson.
At Matt_Reynoldson.
Spooning in May is my Twitter handle.
No, boys, but I think he got stuck in the Kevin Gates mindset, and he has 2 phones, and he must have gotten a text from his new bae, and she must have been like 3 or 4 minutes late, so he just called her out on Twitter and said, you're a liar. You said you'd be here at 12:30. It's 12:34, and I don't see you pulling up. You stupid.
I never thought of it that way. What do you think, Scotty?
Well, clearly she's not very smart or intellectually there because he said she was stupid. So clearly she just doesn't have it going for him. So I think he was right for calling her stupid because, she's an liar, liar. That's really how he spelt it. And it's just astonishing what this great running back can say about people because he's so wise and so cunning.
Inspiration. You know what's amazing that Scotty, you know you're not smart if a guy whose Twitter name is @spooning in May is calling you stupid.
Yeah.
So.
Well, spooning in May. Sorry. All right, here's the context of Jordan Stevenson's tweet.
All right.
So he posted a picture of her, his new bae. This is big news in the world of Jordan Stevenson. Got a new bae. She's great. I already feel like she's part of the Spill Sports Show family. But he said, shout out to my fine expletive best friend, and then at her Twitter handle. And then she replied, well, hello, fake friend. And he replied, hello, stranger, frowning cat emoji. And she said, that's you. And he said, it's not me. Hold on now. And she said, oh, so it's me? And he said, yeah, LOL, I emoji. And she said, looking up face, whatever. And he said, I know you miss me. Don't throw shade, JK, JK, tongue emoji. And she said, what shade, LOL.
Dear Lord.
And then the context of this tweet was he was calling her stupid for thinking that he was serious about throwing shade. So she did not actually throw shade, and Jordan Stevenson made her think she was throwing shade. And so he was calling her stupid for thinking she threw shade.
God bless Jordan
Guys,
Stevenson.
God bless Jordan
I'm not going to lie.
Stevenson.
I think I lost a few brain cells listening to that Twitter conversation. So I'm going to need to do some deep meditation and try to...
Are you going to change your Twitter name to Spooning in June now because you lost some IQ points?
Absolutely not. That will never change.
Well, Jordan Stevenson retweets all of her tweets in this conversation.
Yeah.
So we get to see a lot of this wonderful Jackie girl, and it's amazing to see love just blossom in a week, and
man,
it's just really exciting for me personally.
Puts Romeo and Juliet to shame.
It really
this
does.
is amazing.
It's exciting for me personally to see Jordan Stevenson so in love.
Yeah.
You know what, Jordan Stevenson, if you follow us on Twitter, we'll love you.
He already follows me.
You're the first.
Does he really?
Yeah, he does.
You're the first one on our show, and if you ever want to be on, we'll put you ahead of Stephen A. Smith if you ever decide to come on. Jordan Stevenson, we love you. Have a great week, buddy.
Hey, what's her name again? Jackie?
Yeah, her name's Jackie.
Jackie?
Nope, we're not saying her last name.
All right, that's fine. Jackie, welcome to the Spill Sports Show family. We're happy to have you and cannot wait to dissect your relationship every single week and critique, even though Matt and I are single.
Happy to have you here. Don't flip that dial. We're talking hockey to start hour 2. Coming up next on the Spill Sports Show. Stay with us.
The Spill Sports Show with Matt Reynoldson, David Eickholt, and Scott Ayers. Never miss a show again. Check out our podcast at thespillkrnu.wordpress.com.
The 76ers could have drastically improved their organization by drafting Walter Pitchford.
Quite frankly, if he wins a Super Bowl, I'll direct it 30 for 30 on it.
I've watched this kid play multiple times on national television.
You're like watching kids, David?
Dude, I love basketball. Excuse me.
The Spill Sports Show, every Friday from 1 to 3 on KRNU2.
Woo! Bring 'em out, bring 'em out, bring 'em out, bring 'em out. It's hard to yell when the barrel's in your mouth. Come on.
You're listening to the Spill Sports Show on KRNU2.
Just gotta do what I gotta do, and when I gotta do it, So basically, just doing what I gotta do every time I step on the court to do what I gotta do.
Now, live from Andersen Hall on the UNL campus, here's Matt Reynoldson, David Eickholt, and Scott Ayers.
I'm going to drink a lot of Budweiser tonight, Tracy, and I promise you that.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! It's a home run! Man, woman, and child did that. Put them in the aisle. Johnny the Jet Rogers just tore them loose from their shoes. You believe in miracles? Yes!
Comes to LeBron. He takes a fadeaway for the win. Hey! Knocked it down!
There goes Davis. Oh, my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. You can't believe what just happened. What a time to be alive.
Hit me with the horn, 20. Keep making noise. Keep making noise. Yeah. Oh. Here we go now. 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 Check it out.
Welcome back to the second hour of the Spill Sports Show. We are live worldwide on KRNU2. Matt Reynoldson, David Eickholt, Scott Ayers, the royalty of radio roundtables, kicking off your weekend with hard-hitting sports talk that you need. The Spill is freezing over because we're talking hockey right in the thick of the NHL season. We've seen a really high level of play across the board this season, except for teams from Canada. In fact, if the season ended today, no Canadian teams would make the NHL playoffs. This is a strong if right now, but if that happens, would Canada invade the U.S. and begin World War III?
Well, the Canadians are very peaceful peoples. I don't know if we're going to see World War III, but it would be very shocking because, when you think hockey, you think Canada. So many great hockey players have come from Canada, and so many great teams. Grant, Toronto has just been terrible for years on years on years. However, Montreal, Ottawa, all these teams, and not a single one is in the mix for the playoffs right now. Just a little shocking. Right now, Ottawa, couple games out of the wild card. Pittsburgh holding on to that second wild card spot. Ottawa, 5 points out right now, but it's kind of crazy to think that, Vancouver, a team who's been so great for so many years, they're not even in the wild card spot right now. So we'll see what happens. Time will only tell. I think Vancouver has the best chance of making the playoffs out of all the Canadian teams. But right now, it's not looking good for our friends up north.
It's interesting to see when you look at the NHL standings. In 3 of the 4 divisions, there are Canadian teams, and there are Canadian teams trailing all 3 of those divisions. The Edmonton Oilers trail the Pacific Division, the Winnipeg Jets last in the Central Division, and the Toronto Maple Leafs last in the Atlantic Division. I think the best, I'm going to contradict you here, I think the best chance for a Canadian team to make the playoffs comes with the Montreal Canadiens. But the Ottawa Senators made some moves to try and make a playoff run. They acquired defenseman Dion Phaneuf from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Guys, does this set Ottawa up to contend?
I hope it does because he's a defensive anchor. That's always what he's been known to do. He's been riddled with injuries throughout his career, but I think he brings a strong and kind of a new presence toward this, this defensive lineup that Ottawa is going with. But it's going to take a lot more than just one great defensive player to get this team back in contention, even if they want to make the wild card. What do you think, Scotty?
Regardless with this big trade, I don't think Ottawa has what it takes to make the playoffs. They're going to have to make more moves. This just isn't enough. They just are coming off a loss to the Colorado Avalanche, an Avalanche team who had lost 3 straight before that. Right now, Ottawa is not really in the front of the pack, too, for the wild card. They're kind of in the middle of things, but I don't know. I think a lot has to happen for Ottawa in order for them to make the playoffs.
Dion Phaneuf's a great addition for this Ottawa team because he's an assist guy, and they've been needing an assist guy.
Yeah.
The last three seasons, this year with the Toronto Maple Leafs, 21 assists. Last year with the Maple Leafs, 26 assists. The year before, 23 assists. Year before, 19. But the year before that, 32 assists, 44 points in his third season with the Toronto Maple Leafs in 2011 and 2012. This could be the spark this team needs to finally push over the hump, get to the playoffs. There's a lot of other teams that are in good position. A lot of other Canadian teams that are in good position to try and make a run at the playoffs. Notably, the Calgary Flames, I can really see making a run. They would have to overtake the Vancouver Canucks in the Pacific Division, but you know what? I'm not really seeing anybody behind the Los Angeles Kings in the Pacific Division that can really make a huge playoff run. I mean, the Sharks obviously are winning some games, and the Ducks are good, but the Coyotes have holes in a lot of positions, and the Oilers aren't going anywhere. So I think if a team to watch out for definitely is the Calgary Flames. Well, going back up to the other side of America, the New Jersey Devils retired the jersey of goaltender and legend Martin Brodeur Tuesday night. He's tops all time in wins and shutouts. Where does Brodeur rank among the best of all time to you, David?
I think it's easy to say that Martin Brodeur is the greatest goalie in NHL history. For me, I think the top 2 players of all time, it's obviously you got Wayne Gretzky, and then I'd put Martin Brodeur right behind. I think they're in a class of their own. Look at the stats for Martin Brodeur. He's got over 135 more wins than the next guy that's even close to him. So I don't see how you can't put him as the best goalie of all time. He's done it time and time again, year after year.
Yeah, you know what? I remember playing backyard sports, and Martin Brodeur was just kind of the face of that game. And,
he was a goat.
You know what? But I'm a Colorado boy. We know that. I have bias towards my Colorado teams, which is why I say Patrick Waugh. Patrick Waugh is better than Martin Brodeur. That is simply bias speaking. However, I think Brodeur will go down as one of the best goalkeepers in all time. And, he grew up in different eras than some of these goalies that had played in the 90s, Waugh being one of them. And so, yeah, Brodeur will go down as one of the best. It's hard to compare goalies from different eras because of the different talent levels, but Brodeur has been just a sensational keeper throughout the years, and there's a reason why his jersey's being retired already. It's because he was such a sensational goalie for New Jersey.
And, it's really interesting to see because when you compare Brodeur to guys that are in the league now, there are such great goaltenders in the league with guys like Henrik Lundqvist, Jonathan Quick, Corey Crawford. These guys will all end up going down in the Hall of Fame. And guys that win, there are more and more goalies winning the Conn Smythe Award. And goalies are the staple of your team. They're guys that play every night, and they can really carry your team. Because if you don't like goal, it's simple. If you don't let goals in, if you don't get scored on, you're more likely to win the game. It's that simple. And I'm wondering now if teams, general managers are starting to realize that. Guys, are we entering the age of the goaltender in the NHL?
I certainly hope so. I think it'd be a cool aspect. And I watch a little bit of hockey, but I'm a huge fan of great goalkeepers, and I think we are starting to enter an age where we don't have as many dynamic scorers, I feel like, anymore. You got Alex Ovechkin, and you got the new guy, Connor McDavid, up north. But other than that, there's a few others here and there, but there's not as many dominant scorers as there are in other sports, I feel like, for hockey. What do you think, Scott?
It's kind of hard because there are great players on every single team. You look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, what they've been able to do offensively, and with Ben Bishop playing at net. And so, I go back to the Colorado thing because that's the only team I've really been able to watch. And so they've got a young guy named Nathan McKinnon, who's a stud midi. And so that's how every team is. They've got great players throughout. So if it's a new age of goalkeepers, sure. There are definitely some great keepers out there, but there's also some teams who really could use a backup in the starting role because I don't know if it's the new dominating age yet of goalkeepers.
Well, when you score 9 goals in a game like the LA Kings did, the LA Kings did on Tuesday night, it's easy to say that you don't really need a goalie, but that's also easy to say for the LA Kings because they do have Jonathan Quick back there. We're entering a new age of legendary goalies, and I think all these guys will end up being Hall of Famers because we are entering the age of the goalie. And sadly, that means less goals scored, but thankfully that means more crazy saves, more highlight-worthy saves, and great plays from great kick saves, great glove saves from the goalkeepers. So I'm looking forward to that from a highlight perspective. Speaking of legends, Jaromir Jagr is 43 years old and still playing at the top of his game for the Florida Panthers. The average career length for an NHL player is 5 years, and he turns 44 on Monday in his 26th season in the league. And he's telling Peyton Manning not to retire. Peyton Manning, you want to take Jaromir Jagr's advice?
I'm going to drink a lot of Budweiser tonight, Tracy, and I promise you that.
All right, there you have it, Peyton Manning. But Jagr is what we all strive to be. He's the only active player in the top 25 in points all time, and he's sitting at number 4. He's played so many games, been in the league for 25 years. Where's his place among the all-time greats?
I think he's a top 5, top 10 player for sure. You think of guys like Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, and many others who are just sensational players. And Jagr, the fact that he's been able to play for such a long time in such a grueling sport that really takes a toll on your body is just incredible. All credit to him. And, 44 years old. I'm 19 and I can barely lift a weight. And this guy's playing. This guy's been playing in the NHL for 26 seasons. That is insane.
Yeah, it really is. And I love how people still do respect him. And here's how I know of him a lot. Exactly what you said, Sky. Backyard sports. Remember, I used to play as Jaromir Jagr, and it was over, dude. I had him and Martin Brodeur. It's over. It's a cheat code. It's like Russell Westbrook in 2K12 because he was dominant that year. But in all honesty, though, it's really cool. I like seeing older players dominate and win. It's just really I hope LeBron's like that. I wish Kobe would be more like that. But I'll tell you what, it's really hard to do that, especially in hockey. Just like you said, Matt, the wear and tear on it. I mean, he's probably taken some brutal hits over the years. And the fact he's still putting up, he has 38 points this season. He shows no signs of really slowing down.
He did an interesting interview with ESPN where he mentioned that part of his ability to be in such physically great shape and play at the top of his game right now, he's leading the Florida Panthers in points at 44 years old, which is amazing. But part of the reason he's been able to do so well is the fact that he doesn't really have much family here. He doesn't have a wife or kids or anything like that, and so he has been able. He says in his words, he's been able to focus on hockey as his one love, and I think that's interesting. And we'll see if that rubs off on more players. I mean, I hate to see sports take over somebody's personal life, so we can hope that players really are able to keep their personal life and their professional lives in balance. So it'll be interesting to see if more people follow in Jaromir Jagr's footsteps.
It's interesting to see that crossover, though, too, because J.J. Watt's famously known just for focusing strictly on football. Even after football season, look at the dominant. I mean, granted, his team's not the best, but look at the dominance he's shown just, personal-wise. He's amazing.
NFL defensive MVP this year. So it'll be interesting to see if more players follow in Jagr's footsteps. Well, switching gears a bit, the Washington Capitals have been absolutely dominant in the Eastern Conference this year, just getting to 40 wins last night. What's been the key to their success?
Well, they've got players like Alex Ovechkin and Evgeny Kuznetsov. Excuse me if I pronounced that poorly. I'm not very great with those long names. But this is a team who's first in goals per game with 3.3, third for goals against, and first in power play efficiency percentage. This is a very talented team, head to toe. Alex Ovechkin wants that illustrious Stanley Cup title that he has ever so strived to get. Capitals have absolutely dominated this season. They won 4-3 against Minnesota just Thursday night, so we'll see what happens. I'm cheering for Ovechkin just because the guy has not won a Stanley Cup, and he has dominated the NHL for so long.
I think the key to the Capitals' success has really been just discipline play. That's why they are first in power play goals, because they're not getting a lot of power plays against them. They're getting a lot of power plays because they're at full strength a lot of the time. And Ovechkin doesn't rack up a lot of penalties. He's scoring goals. He's scoring goals, being able to assist. He's among the NHL leaders in points per game, and he has just been dominant. It's so fun to watch this Capitals team. Another team that's really fun to watch in the Western Conference is the Chicago Blackhawks. They're on top of the Western Conference, but they picked up a rare loss Tuesday night that coach Joel Quenneville was pretty heated about.
Yeah, it's gotten to a different level. I don't know the rules anymore, or something's changed because, my understanding, played a lot of hockey, that I don't know. I mean, I think everybody has an interpretation what's a good goal and what's a bad goal, but I can't believe it.
He was mad because a goal that was overturned in the first period when it was ruled that Chicago's Dennis Rasmussen interfered with San Jose goaltender Martin Jones. Now, Quenneville will likely end up as the winningest coach in NHL history, standing alone at second on the list right now. So the man knows his hockey, not to mention that this is his team's second disallowed goal in less than a week. So there's been a lot of controversy in the past couple of years about the area of the goal, pushing the net off the line, goaltender interference, and the like. TJ Oshie in the Olympics comes to mind. Does the NHL have a problem with these rules being unclear, or is this just coaches being coaches?
I think it's a little bit of both. Sure, these rules can be a little unclear, but yeah, as you said, when that happens to your team twice in a week, there is going to be frustration boiling over, and that's what happened to Quenneville. He finally came to a point where he said, enough is enough. So he spoke his mind. He was upset. He's angry. Unfortunately for the Blackhawks, though, they just lost another one last night to the Dallas Stars 4-2. So Chicago's got other things to worry about other than just these rules, because Dallas is now just a point back of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, and I think this kind of translates well to just a lot of different sports not having the rules especially clear. For example, the targeting rule in college football. I think these are rules that we need to clear up, because if it comes down to playoff time and someone loses a game 6 or a series clinching goal because of something like this happens, it shouldn't have to come to that. This needs to be fixed, because all the refs and the players and the coaches, they need to be on the same page to avoid dumb controversy like this, so teams can keep moving forward and they don't have to worry about it. Because I think it's ridiculous that so many sports have so many rules unclear, because it's a problem if the guy is second all time in wins and he doesn't even know the rules anymore. If he doesn't, then who really does? Well,
Obvious exaggeration a little bit, but
I disagree, but okay.
He does know the rules, and obviously, he's played a lot of hockey. He's angry about this happening to his team a couple times, but it's happened all around the NHL. You know, it's not specific to the Chicago Blackhawks. It seems like officials don't know the interference rules, don't know the judgment rules, pushing the net off the line. They aren't consistent with that, and I think they need to retrain, have some consistency, and they'll get it together a little bit better. Well, the LA Kings play the New York Rangers, and the St. Louis Blues play the Florida Panthers tonight. Those are huge games. What are your thoughts on those games, and what else are you guys watching for this weekend?
Well, I think this LA Kings New York Rangers game is going to be very fun to watch. The Los Angeles right now head of the Pacific Division. Meanwhile, the Rangers only behind the very talented Washington Capitals. That's going to be a game that really could be a possible Stanley Cup future. I don't know. Just a little prediction from yours truly, Scott Ayers.
And another thing I'll watch for this weekend is the Capitals are traveling to the Stars Saturday night. And you got 40 wins and 9 losses against 35-15. I think that should be the game of the week. And I expect Alex Ovechkin to have 2 goals. Just my bold prediction by yours truly, David Eickholt.
You know, I'm really looking at this is a great weekend for sports in general, and I think it's especially really highlighting hockey if a lot of people are watching that. I'm looking forward to Sunday night when the Blues travel to the last year's Stanley Cup runner-up Tampa Bay Lightning. I think that'll be an interesting game to see. I'm really looking forward to the ones tonight. I've liked the LA Kings ever since they're winning the Stanley Cup as an 8 seed in the Western Conference. And the New York Rangers are always a tough matchup. It's always tough to go to New York and pull out a win because those fans are crazy about their hockey, and it's really fun to see. And the Blues going to the Panthers tonight. We'll see if Jágr can take over another game yet again at 44 years old. Well, looks like it'll be a great weekend on the ice. We already know it's going to be a great weekend in college basketball. Coming up, we'll bring in college basketball writer Matt Hardesty to preview the games. That's up next on the Spill Sports Show. Stay with us.
You're kicking off the weekend with the Spill Sports Show. Listen every Friday on KRNU2 or 24/7 on thespillkrnu.wordpress.com.
We are talking about people that play games for money.
I love to bring a Jersey Shore type feel.
That makes me angry. That makes me sad. That gets me fired up.
Here's your hosts, Matt Reynoldson, David Eickholt, and Scott Ayers.
Thanks so much for listening to the Spill Sports Show on KRNU2 and thespillkrnu.wordpress.com. Due to some technical difficulties, we are unfortunately not able to bring you the rest of the podcast.
We'll be back next Friday from 1 to 3 on KRNU2.
Until then, enjoy your weekend and go Big Red.
The Spill Sports Show with Matt Reynoldson, David Eickholt, and Scott Ayers. Never miss a show again. Check out our podcast at thespillkrnu.wordpress.com.
The 76ers could have drastically improved their organization by drafting Walter Pitchford.
Quite frankly, if he wins a Super Bowl, I'll direct it 30 for 30 on it.
I've watched this kid play multiple times on national television.
You like watching kids, David?
Dude, I love basketball. Excuse me.
The Spill Sports Show, every Friday from 1 to 3 on KRNU2.